When I started working with entrepreneurs, I realized that we hardly ask any questions. We ask one question: do you have this problem? And then we go immediately into, great, because I have the solution.
Yes.
So just just whip out your credit card and it's gonna be all good. And it's a little like proposing marriage on the first date.
Right.
It's icky, right? It's just it we don't know enough yet. We don't know if our solution is right for them or their problem. We're not everyone's cup of tea, let's face it.
Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Next Step podcast. I am super excited. It's as if today's episode was meant to be because my guest today is Catherine O'Leary. She, my friends, is known as the Quiz Queen and is an expert in client connection. She has over 3 decades of market research and consumer insights, which blows me away because market research is my Achilles heel. But she also specializes in attracting ideal clients and boosting revenue. Her approach uses insightful questions to foster strong client relationships and grow your business. So, today she's going to bring us along as we find out more about her mission to harness the power of curiosity to connect with our ideal clients. Catherine, so excited to have you here today. Like I said, perfect timing because I got a new quiz coming out. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Allison. And it does my soul like all kinds of cartwheels to know that you have a new quiz coming out. I can't wait to hear about it and, hear about how it came about and, what everyone's going to be learning from it. So that just makes my heart sing. But thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Well, yeah, this is the little secret to doing podcast interviews. It's like free coaching. So, you know what I mean? Just for everyone out there who wants to like start a podcast, if you do interviews, you get free coaching a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a side
Yep.
benefit.
Yep.
But okay, so let's just start with, like I said, market research has been an Achilles heel of mine since forever. And so that is an area where obviously you started this whole journey. So tell me more about that. Was that in corporate? Was that in small business, private ownership? Like how did that come about and what's the experience? And maybe give us a few tips along the way as to how we can do a better job of it.
So okay, so there was a lot to unpack with that.
Okay.
So let's start at the beginning. So I have 2 degrees, both in economics, and microeconomics is all about consumer behavior and figuring out why people do what they do, why they choose the red car over the blue car, even though they are the exact same cars with the exception of the color. There's something that drives them to do that. There's something in the utility of having a red car, like people put more value on it. So I went through school for economics, and I landed in a market research boutique supplier firm. So we had clients, corporate clients like Apple and HP and Adobe that we helped do their market research. So we would actually conduct the market research for them and help them analyze the information into new products, innovation, messaging, sales bundles. I did a lot of work with Pepsi, and we did a lot of, what Lay's flavor goes with what Pepsi flavor, and for the Super Bowl or for July 4th or for whatever was going on. So, but you mean, short answer, I asked a lot of questions
Mhm.
worldwide of a lot of people, and then help brands really understand what the insight was, because that's where the real value of the data comes from, is really understanding what are the pain points that still exist, what can corporations or small businesses do in order to help their serve their customers even better, and how do we go forward with that. When I came to kind of the entrepreneurial side, so I was a supplier of market research, then I went client side and I was hiring market research and helping my shareholders or stakeholders in Pepsi and others understand the information. When I started working with entrepreneurs, I realized that we hardly ask any questions. We ask one question: do you have this problem? And then we go immediately into, great, because I have the solution.
Yes.
So just whip out your credit card and it's going to be all good. And it's a little like proposing marriage on the first date.
Right.
It's icky, right? It's just we don't know enough yet. We don't know if our solution is right for them or their problem. We're not everyone's cup of tea, let's face it. So, asking a few more questions, getting to know exactly what the problem is, where they are in the problem, where they are in their journey, and what they're looking for and how they want to find a solution is what I think is missing with a lot of especially service-based online entrepreneurs, as well as just small businesses in general.
Yeah, and what I think what you said there was also a caveat to that is even if we know we have the solution, we might not have the solution they want. Like, isn't that always the whole give them what they want first and then give them what they need? We're like, no, 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 you need my solution. And they're
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, but I don't want your solution. I want to try this first. And so that's where that struggle with sales comes in. We feel like we're pushing all the time. It's because we're not getting to know what our client really, really wants before even when they know what they need.
And I think that I don't know about you guys, but you can get really clever. You can kind of out clever yourself
Mhm.
in your messaging. So clear will beat clever every day. And if you use ChatGPT or Claude or any of the AIs, they can get really clever to the point where nobody knows what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
So,
It's
like,
harmonious and it's a symphony and it's oh, yes, all the things.
it's alliteration and it's 3Ds and it's wonderful and
We're
nobody knows what
embarking
the heck
on a
you're talking
journey
about.
together. I love it.
And so, I mean, not only does clear beat clever, but a lot of the times entrepreneurs speak in a language that, we're on the other side of the solution. So we're not speaking in the language of our clients in the sense they're still like knee deep in the problem.
Yeah.
They're using different language, right? They use different ways of articulating what's going on with that problem. Case in point, I don't think anyone, I call it the 3 a.m. question. What do your ideal clients wake up with at 3 a.m. and what do they say? Because I can almost guarantee you there are two people on the planet, and I'm one of them, that wake up in the middle of the night and say, I just wish my quiz funnel would work better. Like no one else on the planet says that, right? Other than maybe one, maybe two people, but probably only one other person. And what they wake up and think is, how do I stop wasting my time with unqualified leads? Right? How do
That's
I get more clients? How do I how can I make this more efficient? How can I get a
mhm.
process in place that actually works and doesn't just feed me tire kickers and brain pickers? That's the kind of language that they're and even tire kickers and brain kickers is probably a little bit clever, but we get to be a little clever,
You
right?
you
Like,
just nailed exactly why I am starting a quiz. That's it in a nutshell. I have a lot of people that hear what I do and they're like, "Yeah, I need those services. Yeah, I need strategy. I need a sounding board. I need systems. I need help with my communication." And then when they sit down with me, they go, "Oh, well, I can't afford that. Well, I don't have, the teams to support that." And so there is a level of frustration. It's not that I don't want to help these people, but if they can't afford me, then this is a waste of their time. It's a waste of my time. And
exactly.
so, exactly what you're saying is, I want to qualify my leads, not just so that I know they're the right fit for me, but so that they know if I'm the right fit for them. If they take the quiz and
Yeah.
get the result and they're like, "Ooh, no, no, that doesn't fit." Okay, well, then we'll move on. And you wasted 60 seconds and that's it. Right. So,
Yeah. I love it. I love it when people drop off my quiz. I love it when they don't complete it because if they're not going to take 60 seconds
mhm.
to do the quiz, they're not going to take 6 weeks to do a course. They're
Yes.
not going to take a year to do a mastermind or whatever you've got going on. Like if they can't take 60 seconds to get through your quiz, they're not your right people, right?
Mhm.
So that's great. Attract the best and release the rest because they're somebody else's best.
Ooh,
Off they go,
that
right?
was clever
Bless.
yet clear, Catherine. I liked that.
I worked on that one for a while.
That's gonna have to be a graphic for the podcast. We're gonna make that a quote graphic for sure. So, okay, so we kind of have this idea. I totally love that you were working with these big organizations, right? And you were
Yeah.
learning that the things you were doing for them also apply to us, entrepreneurs, small business owners, to attract the right leads. Is that what inspired you to then I guess what was the moment that you were like, "I'm all in with small business owners. I'm walking away from this corporate stuff and I wanna just help," or are you doing both still? I didn't really ask. I should have asked the question. Are you doing both?
I'm not doing both. When I left corporate, I was traveling from where I lived to downtown the city. It was an hour and a half one way. So I
Mhm,
was traveling 3 hours a day. I did not want to continue doing that. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to start something on my own and take it from there. And I had no idea how to take what I thought was so corporate
mhm.
and market research and like how do you take that and put it into something, for yourself without becoming a market research supplier, which I did not want to do, right? Like I knew that I was clear with that. I did not really want to be working with corporate again. So I started in direct sales, actually, in network marketing, and I love the products. I love the events, but here's the trick. I sucked at lead generation. Like, fail, epic fail. I was doing all the wrong things. I was spending hand over fist on paid ads that, yeah, I had no business doing.
Mhm.
Posting in social media, I'm not a big social media fan, and, it came across that way, so,
Mhm.
that would go into ether, never to be seen again, and I, started spending, like, all this time on sales calls just thinking, "If I can just talk to them,
Right.
that like, then they'll want to do personal development because I can convince them,
Mhm.
which everyone knows, like, is not sustainable. So I spent hours on, calls that went nowhere, and that's you get to the point where you're hiding under the covers and thinking, I can't spend another minute on a call that's gonna go nowhere."
Yeah.
So my choice was go back to corporate and 3 hours a day in the car or figure it out. And I soon realized or came to the decision really that there are not enough audiobooks or podcasts in the world to get me back in the car for 3 hours a day. So I had to figure it out. And then, as be ready and the teacher will show up, I found quiz funnels. I took a course and like that course was really great at understanding kind of the start and the end of a quiz, but the middle was a little bit fuzzy and I was like, "Oh, I could do that."
Yeah.
Because I could write questionnaires in my sleep. And so I started with my own quiz for my network marketing business and I tripled my leads and I doubled my sales.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, this is one time, that's not a trend. So let me, help out a couple of colleagues that have businesses and they got similar results and I haven't looked back since.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, what a great story. The idea of that you had this motivation that you didn't want to go back to what you were doing even though you were good at it. So you were transitioning into another way, but you knew that you didn't have all the answers, so you learned. Like I think that's the thing with entrepreneurs is that we're constantly learning how to up level ourselves so that we can up level our business. So I love that story. I love that's so encouraging. So, okay, so now let's, if I can, here's the moment we're going to transition into the coaching. Talk to me about what makes a quiz awesome. Like, do you have a sort of a framework? How do you help people make these quizzes?
Yeah, well, it's gotta start with so you gotta start with the end in mind, right? So as all good kind of processes or structures, they start with the end in mind because you gotta have an end point to navigate to. So what is it that you're trying to get people to do at the end? Or like what solution do you want them to learn about? What's the transformation that they're going to want to learn more about? So once you understand that, you can understand that end point, then kind of reverse engineer and think about that 3 a.m. question in your client's words. Like, what does that look like? So, are they, worried about, more clients? Are they worried about process? Are they worried about efficiency? And then flip that 3 a.m. question into almost like a query. What if I could tell you what your number one hurdle was? Or what if I could tell you what your number one superpower was in this question? And that gets them kind of hooked, right? That's the quiz hook. It gets them into, "Oh, I want to know that. I
Mm,
want to know what's stopping me from, going from 6 to 7 figures cuz
mm,
I'm worried about, growing my business.
yeah.
And I'm stuck not getting to 7 figures and I want to know how to do that and I know it's something that I'm stuck on."
Mhm.
So, the quiz should be something that is a two-way conversation, right? And so your customer learns something and you learn something about them. So they like, that's it, and that's different from market research. Market research tends to be a survey, and that tends to be a one-way conversation. You give data to the company and the company doesn't have to tell you anything,
Mhm.
right? They might give you an incentive or something to do the survey, but you don't actually, like, that information goes into a black hole, you never see it again.
Mm.
A quiz is something that, like, I want to know that. When you nail that 3 a.m. question in that kind of query, then you're going to attract only your ideal clients because they're the ones having the problem,
Mhm.
right? So somebody that's, not even worried about seven figures yet because they're trying to get to five, they're not going
Mhm.
to take your quiz.
Right.
That's fine.
Mhm.
That's great because they're not ready for you. They're not ready for your offer. They're not ready for your help. And, they're ready for somebody else.
Right.
And then what you wanna do is take them through a little bit of a chat, like a coffee chat. If you sat down with a friend and your friend said, "I'm having a real problem growing my business and I really wanna get to seven figures. Can you help me out?" Right? You wouldn't immediately say, "Yes, join my mastermind for $10,000 and I'll help you."
Right.
Right? You wouldn't treat a friend like that.
Right.
You'd say things like, and what are those things? We all have like 4 or 5 questions that we ask every client,
Mm.
right? Tell me when you started. Tell me, do you have a team? Tell me what process you have in place. Tell me what your biggest challenge is right now is, and
Mhm.
then meet your client where they're at. When they say what their biggest challenge is within this big conversation of getting to, say, seven figures, then you can say, "Oh, well, based on what you've told me, it sounds like you're kind of getting tripped up on mindset.
Yeah.
So while we're going to talk about all the other things too, because you need all that, you need IT, you need team, for you, let's talk about mindset. And then for, Samantha, we're going to talk to her about IT because that's where she's challenged right now.
Mhm.
So when you meet them where they're at within the problem that they're trying to solve and they get to get some satisfaction and some, relief from the problem because you're going to give them a couple of solutions. You're not going to get them all the way up the mountain. That's
Right.
not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting them some relief to the problem. Enough to say, "Wow, Allison really knows her stuff, and she's in my head. She nailed it, and I really wanna talk to her more about what else is going on with me and how else I can improve."
Mhm.
Then you get to invite them into, "Okay, well, let's talk about what other solutions that I have because I have a few."
Mhm.
Maybe it's a course, maybe it's a one-on-one coaching, maybe it's a group coaching, and that way you've actually had almost a real-time conversation with people.
Yeah.
And that makes them feel like they know you a little bit better, and if you use the information that you're getting, you know them a little bit better when you get on a call with them.
Right. Right. I what I hear you saying is make them feel seen. Like make them feel instead of being sold to, make them feel seen. And then that way you're inviting them into a conversation with you rather than and isn't that always the biggest fear is when you sign up for that free call, you're like, "Oh no, it says free call and it's but we all know they're going to pitch me." Like and I feel
Yeah.
that way when I sign up for things and so I don't want to make other people feel that way, but at the same time of course I am trying to build my own business and so it's that delicate balance of like you said asking the questions that help lead them through the process so that they understand that I understand where they're at and I have value that I can offer them and if they choose to take me up on it, fantastic. Let's move forward. But that's so good. No, I really like that. And I
Then
like
it's
the
a then it's an extension of the conversation you've already started.
yeah.
Right? So then it's an extension of, "Oh, yeah, you know what? If you wanna talk more about the mindset thing and all the other things that are going on, because I know
Mhm.
there's, like, a lot of other things going on, then let's have that conversation." And don't call it a discovery call because 'cause you've already discovered. Don't
Right.
call it a, like, strategy call because nobody knows what the hell that means. Like, offer more value, right? Like, let's do an audit. Like, like, if
Mhm.
you wanna come on and show me your quiz, let's do an audit. Like, I'll give you the information. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Because if information were all that it took, then everyone would be billionaires because YouTube has everything,
Absolutely.
right?
Isn't that it right there? You just said it. We anybody can get the information they want for free. But are they using the information? Are they implementing the information? Are they taking the action? Most of the time not, which is why they continue to be frustrated, which is why they need to
Mhm.
hire people to come in, experts like you and me in our various fields,
Yeah.
and help them.
And that's where I think that we need to up our game, right? Like quizzes are a vehicle,
Mhm.
right? But what quizzes can do for your business is the consumer insight and the conversations that you can start and the curiosity that you can build into your DNA of your brand and your business. So using the vehicle as a foundation, but what the value is on top of that,
Yeah.
right? So what's the added value on top of that that only you really can give because you're the expert.
Yeah, I love that. I want to circle back for a minute because I'm thinking, and so I'm me as a math person, I'm always building frameworks, I'm always building workflows. And so you said start with the end in mind, right? What's the step I want them to take? And then I go back to the beginning and I have to figure out what's the question they're asking themselves at 3 a.m. that I am offering the solution to here at the end. And then we have this middle part, which is the questions that we use to lead them there. Let's pretend we know what we're offering, right? Obviously, I want to qualify potential leads for my
Yep.
services, right? The question that I know they're waking up asking is I crossed over six figures, but now what? Maybe
Mm.
they've lost their motivation because they achieved their vision and now they don't have another vision. Maybe their systems are a hot mess and they're back of house. They can't sustain, let alone scale, right? Maybe they have a team and they don't know how to communicate with them, like whatever. Like there's all these little problems. And then, so I know the end and I know the beginning, but then we
Yep.
talk about these questions in the middle. Just some basic pointers when you're creating these questions. In some ways, I'd love practical because I'm all about practical. Like, how many questions are the right number? How many answer choices are the right number? And then, even beyond that, how do we dive deeper into knowing that we're not asking fluff questions that are a waste of
Yep.
time, but we're actually getting to meaty questions that matter?
Okay. So let's go through the very tactical first. If it is a lead generation quiz, you've got probably between I would say 5 and 8 questions
Okay.
for the attention span of the people that you're meeting, especially if you're using cold traffic. We've got the attention span less than a goldfish. Goldfish has 8 seconds, we have 7. So that's what you're dealing with, folks. Like
Mhm.
we got to get in. That's why that 3 a.m. question and that quiz hook have to be like right bang on,
Mhm.
to get to grab the attention and stop the scroll. So you've got about 5 or 8 questions. Remember that 80 to 90% of quizzes are probably done on a smartphone. Don't have 20 options. People have to scroll through. The more choices that you give people, the more confused they are,
Mhm.
and the more that they're going to drop off. So you don't need like, 6, 7, 8 answers to every question. You probably only need 4 or 5. So, keep it tight. When you consider adding a question, ask yourself if it adds to the story. So, as you are walking people through from the problem that they have to the solution you have, what's that storyline, right? What makes sense? What's the progression of general questions down to the kind of the more nitty-gritty that just like people go, "Yeah, that makes sense," as the next question. And like think of it like a six-figure income revenue stream.
Mhm.
Every question you should be thinking, would I pay $100,000 to have that question on the quiz? Like, think of it that way
Yeah.
because that'll keep you real tight, real fast. And just remember that, you're taking your client through a bit of a story. Okay, you got this problem. Well, tell me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more. Let's get deeper. Let's understand this. Here's a way to think about it. Tell me about your challenges. Tell me about your dream. Like, a year from now, what would this look like? Okay, based on what you've told me, it looks like you are struggling with, or your superpower is, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
You want that to flow. You want that to make sense. It needs to be, you know, almost like a story plot or a storyline. And again, the questions in between are your coffee chat. As you sit down with your friend,
Mm.
right? You wouldn't sit down with a friend and start with, okay, well, how much money do you make? Because I want to make sure that you can
Right.
afford me,
Right.
right? Like, you wouldn't start there,
Right.
right? So warm them up a little bit and
Mhm.
then go into, questions.
Gotcha.
You want to make sure that everyone can answer each question, right? Like you've got an answer for everyone. If you
Mhm.
don't think you have that, again, other please specify. It's a way out for it. It's your get out of jail free card. If you have to put a comma in an answer or you have to explain the answer. For example, are you putting parentheses in? You're not being clear enough, and you've probably got too many things going on in the question. A lot of answers that I see are actually two answers shoved together. And the problem with that is on the back end, you can't analyze that data because you don't know actually what they're answering to.
Ooh, that's a good tip. That because I'm
Right?
wordy and I like to do that. So that's a good tip.
Keep it really short. And for the love of God, don't put like 100 different gifts into your quiz. There's just way too much movement. Like, you want to train your respondents to read the question, answer it, click next.
Mhm.
Not saying that you can't, switch it up and put some images in, like one question or something, just to give them a little bit of a break from reading. That's
Yeah.
cool, but just don't overdo it. That's all.
I know, and I appreciate that because I do you get distracted and I almost wonder if it would sway their answers. Like because they might
And
even though the answer isn't really them, they're laughing at the GIF. And so that's, then you would skew your results. So no, that's such practical, great tactical advice that can be applied to the quiz. So I feel like I feel like in a very short period of time, we've really covered a lot of ground here. So, as the resident quiz queen, before we kind of close up, is there any last tips, tricks, important points that we didn't cover that you were like, if you were going to make a quiz, don't forget to do this thing?
have fun. Right? Let your personality shine. If you're quirky, be quirky. If you're like buttoned down and professional, be buttoned down professional. Because don't forget, you're introducing yourself. And so if they get on the phone with you later and you've done like one thing in the quiz and you're another thing online, there's a bait and switch thing going on in their minds and they're like, don't trust you. So, but let your personality shine through. Have some fun with the answers. Don't be and this is coming from an economist. Don't be so linear or literal. What works with your brand?
Mhm.
Obviously, don't go off brand, but whatever works with your brand. But for the love, have fun.
Right.
That's all.
So, have fun, but be clear, not overly clever. You got to find the balance.
Have fun being clear.
Yes,
Yes.
there you go. Excellent. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So, Catherine, tell everybody where they can find you. Do you have a quiz that they can take?
Imagine I do. And it's at quizformybiz.com. So if you want to learn about any of the communication gaps that you might be having with your ideal clients and how a quiz can help you craft and bridge those gaps, you can go to quizformybiz.com and fill out the quiz. And that actually takes you to a way to connect with me.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure that that is in the show notes. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and for giving me some little insights on my own new lead magnet. And for all of you that are listening or watching here on YouTube, you can head to AllisonLeeSimmons.com to take my quiz. So, Catherine, thank you again for being here today. Everyone else, I want you to go out there and make a plan, take action.